Thanksgiving for a lot of Americans, yes? A lot of Americans. So let's get ready. Let's get ready. Some years ago, when I was the director of the urban ministry of Palo Alto, the organization, interfaith organization serving unhoused people in Palo Alto, we started a shelter that used churches at night, exactly like the kind that we have right here in our church, which, by the way, is up and running again, pads. Every Monday night in our church, we have a group of about 10 unhoused folks that camp out here overnight, and it's great. And Ron, the guy who runs the thing, is just a terrific guy. I hope you all at some point get to meet Ron. He's a beautiful person. He really is, working for Samaritan Center. Deeply compassionate guy. So when we ran that program in Palo Alto, we had a staff we hired to cover at nighttime, and we had quite a few more people staying in the churches at night in that system, so we needed a bigger staff. So we were hiring, and we got an applicant, and she looked great on paper, and then she showed up for our interview with her. She was 5'2". She weighed about 90 pounds. She had hair that stuck out about that far and big glasses. And we took a look at her and we're thinking, ooh, baby, all right, okay. So how's this going to work with a bunch of, many of them big people, some of whom had some behavior issues, shall we say? How is this going to work with Donna, our applicant? So we interviewed her, she was awesome, and then we asked the kind of the kicker question. We go, so, when you have to deal with conflict among sometimes large and unhappy people, how do you handle these situations? And she said, without batting an eye, she said, I have found that there are hardly any problems in these situations that cannot be solved with a large bag of peanut M&Ms. May the peanut M&Ms of Christ be with you. Take all you want, my friends. Take a handful. Take a bunch. You're going to need them. Seriously, take a bunch, people. You're going to need these for Thanksgiving. Get ready for Thanksgiving. Have some. Have some. Let me deputize a friend right here to make sure everybody else. Could you pass these around to everybody else? Thank you very much. I need some too. I really need some. Yeah, peanut M&Ms. That's the solution. That's the solution. Now, what we got here with peanut M&Ms is what I would use. I have a fancy term, not my term, but it's a fancy term that's out there. This is what we call an orthogonal intervention. An orthogonal intervention. So there are interventions when you try to change things that are direct. It's like this is going on and you do the opposite of it directly, right? To intervene, right? Please, handfuls. You're going to need them. You're going to need them. Contains peanuts in case you have allergy. Anyway. Oh gosh. So an orthogonal intervention is one that is not direct, but tangential. It doesn't even look like an intervention. It seems to come from nowhere. Please, thank you very much. We're going to put these right here in a sacred spot. The holy peanut M&Ms. Gosh, I wish I could eat one now, but I won't be able to talk. Anyway. So yes, Donna told us about her orthogonal intervention, And we thanked her very much for the interview. She walked out the door. We all circled up and we said, "She's hired." It took us about 5 seconds to decide to hire this woman, and she was awesome. And sure enough, she was the best. And on her first day at work, we presented her with a very large bag of peanut M&Ms and said, "Go to it." And she did. She was terrific, just terrific. Everybody loved her. Orthogonal intervention. So things are starting to get weird. Maybe you've heard this, you who might be familiar with counterculture history. So there was Ken Kesey, remember him? The hippie, the leader of the hippies in the 60s. And he came up with this great line. He says, "When the going gets weird, the weird get going." And such are the times that we're in, right? So, this is a time for us to all think about how to be useful, right? How to be not just reactive to what's going on. Yes, it's a time to mourn, a time to feel, and to hold each other up in those feelings and and support, emotional support, spiritual support. That's what we're doing right now, right here, and we'll be doing forever, right? It's also a time for us to think deeply about how to be actually useful in preventing tyranny from sweeping over this country. And this will be a long conversation that we have together, but I believe that we are going to be serious about this because this church, before I came here, was already serious about this stuff, and plenty serious, and I know that you will be serious again. But hopefully you'll be serious with big bags of peanut M&Ms, and that our actions and our witness in the world will not just be direct, but will be orthogonal and surprising and make people scratch their heads and go, I am quite certain that on January 21st, we will begin to see more and more and more people who voted a certain way begin to, start to, I don't know about this, yeah? That's going to start to happen. Now, how can we be useful to those people? How can we shift things and be helpful to them in that shift as this process unfolds, as I am certain it will? This questioning of, buyer's remorse, shall we say. It's about to kick in a big way. And that's okay. That's democracy. If we can save democracy, that's the way it works, if we can save it. So, unusual, creative interventions. I think one of the most powerful orthogonal interventions is at Thanksgiving, when you're tempted to get mad at somebody who says something that just lights your wick, yeah? Instead of making statements and holding a position, start asking questions. Just ask questions. And when you get answers, ask more questions. And you could practice this. What kind of questions would I ask of someone who has a point of view that's very different than mine? Get ready for that. Prepare for that. Ask questions. Question, answer from the other person. Ask them another question. Every question you ask is an orthogonal intervention. Every question you ask is a seed that you have planted, an M&M seed that you have planted in their souls that encourage them, maybe possibly, to ask you a question. Then you can answer it politely, kindly, gently. Plant seeds with your questions and avoid type of interventions. Use this intervention. My friends here, I know this is a lot to ask, but will you join me on the floor? This is much harder for me than it is for you. Could you, if you don't mind, just lie back on the floor with me? Can you do that? Any old way that feels comfy. Okay, my friends, Zelda, Lennox, can you imagine if you were flat? If you were two-dimensional, you know, like length and width, but not height or depth, right? Imagine yourself being perfectly flat, okay? Now, imagine that all of a sudden something around a circle, like the circle in the ceiling, that there's a circle on the ground right here. It's a little circle at first, and then it gets bigger and bigger, this circle that's flat, a flat circle. It's flat, a little circle, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and then it starts getting smaller and smaller and smaller, the circle behind us, because we're flat people who live in flat land. But then we see this weird thing. It's like, wait, why is this circle, where did this circle come from, and why does it's small, and then it gets bigger, and then it gets bigger, and then it gets smaller, and then it gets smaller, and then it goes away. What's going on? What's going on? What's happening in flatland? Oh, yeah, maybe. Maybe. What else might be happening in flatland that would happen? I know. Could it be a three-dimensional sphere, a ball? I love it. It's a giant peanut M&M that's three-dimensional, right? It's round. And it passes through flatland, but all flatland can tell about it is that it's a little circle at first, and then a bigger and bigger one, and then a smaller and smaller one, and then it disappears. Because we're flat, and it's round. And we don't know about round things. We've never seen a round thing before, except circles that are flat round things, but we've never seen a sphere, like a ball. That's impossible to imagine. Impossible for us flat people on the floor to imagine. Okay, I've had enough on the floor. I don't know about you, but I'm getting up. Help. Whew. Thank you, guys. Okay, flat people, be flat. Stay flat. Oh. Anyway, here we have a schematic diagram of what you've just experienced, right? So the line is like flatland, and then the ball is going through flatland, and it starts out as a little circle, and then a bigger circle, and then a real big circle, and then it goes away again, goes back to a small circle, and then disappears. Okay, this comes from a wonderful little book, an old book called Flatland. Anybody ever read Flatland? I commend it to all parents. Anyway, great book. And it's about this idea. It's like, what if the world was flat and then suddenly a spherical thing passed through it? You know, what would flat people have to say about that? What would they think is going on? And what I would suggest is that our task is to be spherical people in flat America, right? And pass through the flatland and blow everybody's minds with this orthogonal intervention, right? Be something different that people aren't used to seeing, something wonderful that gets them thinking, gets them to ask questions without us poking at them with our opinions, right? In the Flatland book, the sphere, isn't trying to mess with people. It's just passing through. But whoa, it gets people thinking. It gets the flat people thinking. It gets them pondering, is there another dimension? And I would say yes, there is another dimension to the universe. A weird thing that we can't see, we cannot quantify, we cannot measure really, fully. It's this mysterious thing called love. Love. Where does it come from? Where is it going? Love. Love passes through flatland, blows our minds. Greg wept when he read it before church, and as I sat here looking on the screen at Jesus saying, love your enemies, so did I. I'm weeping now because that is the passage that I heard read to me when I was 16 years old during the Vietnam War with all the 1960s wackiness going on, a time not unlike our own. And I heard those words on a backpack trip with a group of fundamentalist Christians. I disagreed with them about everything that they said. But then, at the top of Kearsarge Pass in the Sierra, where we sat, and they opened their floppy Bibles and did their thing, the leaders, they read this passage, and it was like a bomb went off inside my heart. I go, okay, this is something. This is something. This is a thing. This is a thing. That was a moment when a massive peanut M&M went through my flatland of my head, right? And I was never the same after that. Never the same. That moment is why I'm here. That's why I'm here. That moment. So let us be the peanut M&Ms that pass through the flatland and surprise people with our graciousness and our honest, sincere curiosity, our loving attention. Let us not cut off the ears of the people that we want to hear what's going on. Let us heal their ears. Let us heal our ears so that we can hear too, so that we can be peacemakers and deal with the next 4 years and beyond. Amen.
Can you give us a couple examples of questions that are not snarky?
Non-snarky questions. Yeah, non-snarky. Yeah, honest questions, not leading questions. Not leading questions.
Like what?
Why did you vote the way you did? And then they give ding, 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 and you say, oh, tell me more about that issue. And then they say more about that, and you pick some part of that out, and you go, tell me more about how you feel about that part of that issue. On and on and on and on. It gets interesting when you do that. It gets really interesting. You'll get all sorts of interesting answers, and you just receive them with grace, respect, and you keep asking questions. And after a while, they're going to realize, oh, this person is only going to ask questions. And then they get to, it's their turn to think about, should I ask a question? You're not asking them to ask you a question. You're just asking them questions. And honest, kind, respect. Yes, this is going to be a discussion. Okay, let's go. Yeah? You ask them, where did you get that idea? Where did you get that? That's the whole thing. That's the biggest mess of the whole country, right? No, don't argue with them. Just don't argue. Don't try to straighten them out about what you know to be the facts, because they're living in a different information bubble than us, me, you. And that's the problem, right? That is what is made a wreckage of this country's democracy is bad information sources. And these, our fellow citizens are sucked up in this, and it's very understandable. It's something we can sympathize with this problem because it's hard for people to sort stuff out. And it's become much harder because of the misinformation ecosystem of our media. And we have a lot of work to do, but just confronting people saying that's a bunch of baloney, even though it isn't going to help because they're living in a different cosmos of information. Yes, please. Diane. Yeah. Yeah. Asking. You just keep asking questions, and you let them go. But what the orthogonal intervention is asking questions. You inspire them to ask questions about their sources of information by you asking them questions. You inspire them to ask questions. You create a template here of behavior. The behavior is, tell me more. I want to know about this. Oh, the question was, when people, what was it? How can we just let people run off at the mouth about stuff that's not true? Have I got it? More or less. But, because they're in this other world, it's like apples and oranges. It's like, ships passing in the night. But if we pause the ships long enough to ask questions, then that's the seed. That's the seed. I think you might need some more peanut M&Ms, Diane. I'm bringing them over. Oh, I know. Anybody else need more? Because I can tell this is stirring us up. Yeah? Oh. Joy is taking a whole handful. Yes.
Jim, I'm going to skip those. I was just going to say, I was before I went back to a big dinner where I knew a bunch of Republicans were going to be, I was given the same advice. But the advice was prefaced by the statement, if you give them facts, you'll only make them angry. Ask them questions and keep asking questions.
Amen. Because that inspires the habit of asking questions.
Just in my in response directly to Diane's question, I think a lie can only go so far, and so I think what Jim's trying to say is keep asking deeper and deeper questions. At some point, the lie falls apart because there is no truth to explain it. So the idea is to get them, when they start to realize, I can't answer that question, the thought is, they become perplexed, and that might plant the seed of, maybe this narrative is, or they may say, no, I like the lie, it makes me feel better, I'm going to keep it, and there's nothing you can do about that. But if you can you can't just ask the one question, you have to keep going down, because at some point the lie falls apart. The other thing that in me, of course, now reading all this stuff and trying to understand and so on and so forth, a lot of the demographics that shifted were because they felt like they weren't being heard. So what you're talking about of listening, because a lot of it is you're just a bunch of elitist snobs who think you know everything, and you talking to us like we're idiots, and we're not idiots. And I don't believe a lot of these people as much as I want to think what is going on. The things that drive them are, we make assumptions, and you know what they say about when you assume, right? Only we ended up being the asses this time. So I hear you. I also, this love your enemies right now, I got a voice message today from someone concerned about me, about the fires, but it's somebody who I have a very hard time with right now, and was trying to think of how I would, if I call back, what kind of conversation? And I've been struggling with that. And you hit me square between the eyes with the love your enemy thing. So now it's completely changed my trajectory. So hearing the right thing at the right time is super important.
Amen. Yeah. Anybody else with a response? Oh, please. Calvin.
So as I'm listening to what everybody is saying, oh, good. It seems to me, to kind of summarize, that a lot of you think that if you listen to them and you ask questions, eventually they won't be able to answer the questions because their beliefs are based on facts which are not real facts. It's alternate facts. I think that if you're asking questions of them, you need to be open to the possibility that their beliefs are based on facts that are real. And I can give you one example, I think, and that is globalization and NAFTA. Now, I personally would support globalization because it's something for equality for everybody in the world. But if you were a relatively low-skilled worker in the United States, you would have a very good chance of your job disappearing and with no option of getting another job. And those are facts. And we need to listen to that.
Amen.
Response to that, though. So I think the point being, however, is that somebody's telling you something, yet what they're doing is something else. Because I just saw a thing where a lot of they are globalizing even though they're telling you they don't believe in globalizing. So jobs were shipped to Mexico to make things for a candidate who claims that America's only, it's more about what is true as far as what you're saying you're going to do versus what is actually happening. So I understand what you're saying, Calvin, but there's also that I'm going to do this for you when in fact I'm not going to, that's not really what's happening, I guess.
And that's true.
Yeah. So I feel us already going into the weeds here. And that's our time. And of course, we're, in our heads, we're going into the weeds. Oh my God, I'm the first to confess this, right? I'm just, oh man, the stuff in my head is just like roaring. It's roaring and roaring because of what I do for a living and the progressive Christian movement that I'm in. My brain is very busy these days. But to what end, I'm doing my spiritual practice every day, looking at my thoughts, looking at my emotions, looking at my sensations, staring them down so that I can make room in my heart for other people, other points of view, and have spiritual energy to be useful, not just reactive, but useful. So let us, this would be a good time for us all to kind of take a break from getting into the nitty-gritty details of public policy right now and really prepare our souls to be receptive, open, respectful, and vigilant and strong and committed to the work ahead of us. This little church, pound for pound, is a powerful place, okay? And I am convinced that it's going to get it's going to be an interesting time for this community. I think we are poised to be very useful here and to attract other people who want to be useful. I think we're in for a really interesting and frankly exciting time as a church. So I personally am very hopeful. I'm very energized because we are together, because we are a community, because we're working on this stuff and we care about this stuff. So may that be so, and may we always carry peanut M&Ms with us in our quest. Amen.